Abbreviator. English subtitles are included, as always. In popular culture, ancient Rome is always depicted as a super-duper advanced civilization, and it was, of course, during some periods of its history. In its glorious years, the Roman Republic, and then the Roman Empire, had stretched from the Iberian Peninsula in the west to Asia Minor, and even farther in the east, spreading her culture, law and technology around the Mediterranean. But as we know, Rome wasn't built in a day. During its obscure years, the Roman kingdom and later the Roman Republic was famous for her warlike culture and primitive law system. And the law part, in my opinion, is the most important part. You see, in some aspects, Roman law in the 5th and even 4th century BC was even more primitive than Babylonian law during Hammurabi's reign, 1810 BC to 1750 BC. The laws of the 12 tables, circa 450 BC, was the earliest attempt by the Romans to create a code of law. It is known that while creating this code, Romans had incorporated some Greek elements, especially from the Athenian law. The 12 tables were created by a commission of 10 men, the Decemviri, which was appointed to draw up a code of law to ease tensions between patricians and plebeians. It is worthy to say that before this code was created, most of legal acts were verbal, and the Roman society lived according to its traditions, not according to laws, and even when Roman kings enacted some legal documents, the right to interpret them was only in the hands of patricians. But let's compare the Code of 12 Tables and the Code of Hammurabi's Law. Both of these codes are primitive, even by medieval standards, which is not surprising, because they were written hundreds of years BC, and although the 12 Tables were created more than 1,000 years after Hammurabi's death, it is indeed a more primitive code. Let me give you a quick example. Table 4. Paternal Power. Line 1. A notably deformed child shall be killed immediately. Line 2a. To a father shall be given over a son the power of life and death. So yeah, you can kill any of your children, not only the ugly ones. Line 2b. If a father thrice surrenders a son for sale, the son shall be free from the father. This one is quite interesting, because from this line we can see that it was a common practice for fathers to surrender his children for sale, and in pre-republic period, family members were no more than slaves to paterfamilias, the house owner or simply the father of the family. And let me also note that the word familia actually means a bunch of famili, and the word famili means slaves. One slave is famulus. Line 3. To repudiate his wife, her husband shall order her to have her own property for herself, shall take the keys, shall expel her. There is also an interesting division between mancipable, or I don't know how to say this word in English, well, let's just say emancipatable. Okay, emancipatable sounds decent enough. So, emancipatable things and emancipatable things. Res mancipi et res nec mancipi. The only difference between these two kinds of things is that to sell or to buy res mancipi, a person had to invite 5 witnesses and a weightman with a scale. The purchase of res mancipi, things like slaves, domestic animals, and land bondages, always required the ritual of mancipatio, of putting copper pieces on scales and pronouncing the needed chants. Sometimes it was easier to go to a judge and play a fake trial, in which a person would give a thing to another person with the help of judicial power, than to do the mancipatio ritual. And the last for today, but definitely not least. Before we came to this moment, I was just looking at different legal obstacles created by the early Roman laws, but now we are coming to the culture itself. It is true that in the classical, late Republic and early Imperial periods, Romans were famous for their advanced culture, but it wasn't always the same way. In regal and early Republican periods, if you would visit Rome, you would have an impression of Romans being real barbarians, to some extent even more barbaric than Gauls. But now we are coming to the most brutal and savage elements of Roman law. If you are a sensitive person, or if you have children watching this video, please take care and remove yourself or the people that are close to you from watching this video. If I will decide to include a not safe for watching picture into a video, I will tell you about it in some seconds before it will be shown. But I think I will not even try. Although I must say that some information is going to be pretty shocking. And yes, I'm talking about the lex talionis, the law of retaliation, eye for an eye. But that is not the scariest part. Of course, severing someone's limb if he or she had done damage to the limb of another person is a bad thing, but such practices existed in later periods in the Middle East, China, and even in Christian countries like Russia. Besides, if a person had enough money, he could just pay the expenses to hire a doctor or take care of an injured person, which will grant him the right to not to be punished. But here is the line in the 12 tables I find the most disgusting of all. On the third market day, the creditors shall cut shares. If they have cut more or less than their shares, it shall be without prejudice. Sounds pretty normal, right? But the most interesting part here is that the share here is actually remove your children from the screen, a debtor's body part. That is why if they have cut more or less than their shares, it shall be without prejudice. Because here we don't talk about money, we talk about meat. A Roman historian, Aulus Gellius, actually wrote, "It remains for me to answer your belief that the cutting and division of a man's body is most inhuman. It was by the exercise and cultivation of all the virtues that the Roman people sprang from a lowly origins to such a height of greatness, but most of all, and in particular, they cultivated integrity and regarded it as sacred, whether public or private. Thus, for the purpose of vindicating the public honor, it surrendered its consuls, most distinguished men, to the enemy. Thus, it maintained that the client taken under a man's protection should be held dearer than any relatives, and protected against his own kindred. Nor was any crime thought to be worse than if anyone was convicted of having defrauded a client. This man lived more than 5 centuries after these laws were written, during more civilized times, and he confessed that he doesn't remember ever hearing about such terrors during his lifetime or the lifetime of his older friends, and we do not have any clear evidence which can point to Romans actually cutting people in pieces, but the fact of such a thing being hinted to in the laws of the 12 tables make them seem as real barbarians. And what is your opinion? Please leave it down in the comment section below. And don't forget to leave a like to my video if you found some interesting information for yourself. Also, subscribe if you want to see more interesting videos in the future. All the links to the information sources are in the description. If you disagree with my opinion, please write a reasonable comment. I would be more than happy to know about my mistakes if I made any. Goodbye, fellow travelers, and remember, audentes fortuna iubat.